tying up the last of the Carrie Stevens patriotic flies, or at least what I'm calling patriotic flies. Did a series of flies years ago during World War II that just were patriotic themed. This is the General MacArthur. There's the America, the Victory, and the Casablanca, all of which I've done videos on. This is the last one, the General MacArthur. Fairly simple pattern. The tail has some red, white, and blue hackle in it, silver tinsel body and tag. The throat is the same, just some red, white, and blue Schlappen in there. And then the wing, which is some white, then blue, and then Natural Grizzly. All of them have the telltale red, white, and blue head on them. That's the General MacArthur. I'll get started tying. I'm going to start the General MacArthur with my hook and the vise. This is a Partridge CS15, a little bit of a bend in it. You can see that it's got a little bit of a bend right there. I don't know if that was in the shipping and packaging, but anyway, that is a Partridge CS15 in a size 4. It's just a larger, typical Carrie Stevens style hook, long shank. You could go with something a little shorter if you wanted. I went with a size 4. It's nice and long. The whole fly will be probably 2.5 to 3 inches, mostly because these are just being framed. I'm not going to fish these. Anyway, that's the hook. I went ahead and debarbed the hook. I'm going to attach my thread. The thread I'm starting out with is a Danville 210 in white. The resulting head on this is a red, white, and blue, similar to the other patriotic flies that she did that I did videos on. They all have a red, white, and blue head. So I can start with the white on this because that will end up in the head. The body is just a silver tinsel, so I don't have to be concerned about darkening that or anything. I could use a darker thread if I wanted to. I'm going to attach my thread maybe about an eye length behind the eye of the hook, and I'm going to run down a base layer of thread down to maybe about 1/4 of the shank left, which is maybe, I'm going to say, 3/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch in front of the point of the hook. So with my thread right at the end of the body, this is where the tag is going to start. As I mentioned, the body on this is a silver tinsel. There's no rib or anything. The tail is a red, white, and blue hackle, as well as the throat. Because of that, I have to, whatever I want my resulting tail in terms of density to be, I want to divide that by 3. So when I put that in, I can minimize the bump that I'm going to have back here, which I'm going to have one no matter what. But right here is where I'm going to put the tag in. The tag is going to be some silver tinsel. I'm using a Danville size 10 silver and gold Mylar tinsel. I'm going to tie this with the gold side up. I'm going to advance my thread down to the end of the shank, which is going to be just about at the barb, maybe a little bit between the point and the barb of the hook. Back up. I'm going to apply that tinsel. You could, if you wanted, to put a base layer of flex cement or some sort of head cement along here to help glue that down a little bit. You could. Again, I'm planning on framing these, so I'm not that concerned about them being that durable because they're just going to be sitting in a frame. I'm going to wrap that in. You want to minimize. I don't want to put a whole bunch of wraps in there because I'm going to end up, like I said, with a resulting bump on the end here. So I want to try and make certain that that doesn't get too big. As I said, the tail is made of red, white, and blue hackle. I'm going to be using some Schlappen. So I've got some red, white, and blue Schlappen. The blue is a silver Dr. Blue. And I'm going to take just a little bit of this because each little bit is going to be tied in separate. You could, if you wanted to, take these out, stack them on your table, your desk, whatever, and then tie them in once. But the problem that you're going to have is you're still going to end up with a little bit of a bump back here. And a wrap or two of thread for each one of these does not necessarily build it up much more. Now, these are also tied in that order, red, white, and blue. Specifically in the instructions, it states red, white, and blue in that order. Got to stay patriotic here. You just want to make certain that you're tying in just a small little bit for each one. Otherwise, it just gets too big. Just trying to smooth that off, wrapping back a little bit down to about where the end of the tag is, because this is where I need to put in the tinsel for the body, and it has to start wrapping right at the end of the tag right there so that it just all looks nice and smooth. Body is going to be the same tinsel, the silver and gold Mylar size 10 tinsel. Now, I'm only putting one layer on here. You could, if you wanted to, I could bring the thread all the way up to the eye of the hook and put a double layer of tinsel on here if I wanted to. I'm just going to put one layer on here. So as before, I'm going to tie this with the gold side up. And I'm going to have that tag go up the hook shank just a little bit. It's going to help to bind that in and then smooth off that transition just a little bit so that that body's just a little smoother. Now, wrapping forward, trying not to wrap too much on top of each other. I'm going to bring this forward. If you have problems with that thread slipping around there, you can put some wax on your thread, grip that a little bit better. I'm going to bring this forward, and you could also untwist that and flatten that down a little bit. Before I get too much further, what I want to do is go back just a little bit right here. This is just going to bring that diameter out just a little bit more so that right now when I come forward, this bump is mitigated a little bit. Trying to put in a little bit of a transition here. Yeah, and at this point, I'm going to go ahead and untwist the thread. I flatten this thread out, and it's going to smooth all of that off a little bit as I go forward up to the end of the body. It's going to help that body have a little bit better transition, that's all. So now with my thread at the end of the body, I'm going to go ahead and apply that tinsel. And again, you could put some flex cement down if you wanted to just adhere that a little bit, just to shore that up a little bit. I'm going to apply that tinsel around. I want to make certain that first wrap is going to cover up any thread wraps so that the tag and the body look as seamless as possible. And then there's going to be in slightly overlapping turns. Double check that you're getting this in right, especially right here with that bump. Sometimes that tinsel will slide around just a little bit. You end up with some gaps in there. Now this is interesting. I've had this happen lately with this tinsel, and I don't know if it's the tinsel itself or it's a bad batch, or if it is a just old tinsel. But you'll notice that the gold right here is delaminating from the silver. Now, there's a couple of things you can do. If you keep wrapping that on there, you're going to be chasing it the gold still has silver on this side, so it would look fine, but it's just going to keep delaminating all the way. What I found is that you can go back where that starts, right about here on this wrap is where that starts. And I'm going to actually snip off that gold right here and then pull that off, because that just leaves the silver side of that Mylar tinsel. If I had my preference, I wouldn't have to do that, but I have had that happen, and I'm simply pointing that out so that if you are doing these, then you can do the same thing. Once that's at the end of the body, I'm going to secure in the tinsel for the body. Should have a nice smooth body. I got a couple small little bumps here. Again, some of that can be mitigated by doing a double layer because that second layer comes across. But as you can see back here, you get this bump here anyway. And I don't know if this is just inherent with these flies, or my skills just have not gotten to the point where I know how to deal with that. We shall keep learning and find out. So the throat on this is also red, white, and blue, and it's in that order. So I'm doing the same thing with the Schlappen. Now, normally on her flies, I'm tying three sections of the throat, and I'm tying one on the bottom here and one kind of on each side. This, they're all three going to be right on the bottom. So I'm going to take a little bit wider bit of red, white, and blue. Just want this to be a little bit more pronounced than the tail. I'm going to tie that in so it goes about halfway down the body. And I'm going to do the same thing for the white and the blue. Careful not to put too many turns of thread in the throat area here. The thread is sitting right about back where the back of the head space is going to be. So we want to keep those bound in and smooth, but we don't want to get too many wraps in there. And then lastly, I will get the blue hackle in. And then we're ready to smooth this area off and tie in our wing. The wing on the General MacArthur, kind of surprised with all the red, white, and blue in this, that she didn't stick with that predominantly in the wing. The Victory last week definitely had red, white, and blue in the wing. The General MacArthur is a little bit different. It has white. So the recipe calls for 2 white hackles, and that's going to be two white hackles like this that are then, married together this way. So you're going to have 2 white hackles with a blue hackle on each side, and then this Natural Grizzly on the outside. And then the cheek is just going to be some jungle cock. And again, I'm not certain why she didn't go with a more red, white, and blue on this, and she liked the grizzly. But that is how she came up with the wing for the General MacArthur. I'll trim the ends of those. So I've got just a little nub here to tie in. I'll put that up in the head space here. I'm going to tie that in so it's on the top, but on my side of the top. Being careful not to advance that thread too far back on the head. I want to make certain that that's nice and vertical. Use your fingernail a little bit to kind of scooch some of that around. And then I'll tie in the other side. Get a few wraps in to secure it, and I'll double check that. Seeing that those wings are in okay. Positioned all right. They're all straight up and down. Now I'll cover up those butt ends with the white thread, shaping the head a little bit. Careful not to put in too many wraps. Again, you don't want to make this too big. But I want to make certain I'm covering up the butt ends. Got that all tied in. I'm going to flatten my thread here and put in a whip finish for the white, and then that will secure. Then that will secure the white, and I will put in the red band and the blue band. Like I've done on a lot of her videos, I'll attach the color for the black band first. In this case, red. I'm using a Danville 70 Denier in red. I also have a Danville 70 Denier in blue for the front. And I'll wrap those in, securing those. And then put some head cement on. So I'm going to transition this just a little bit so that it takes up a little less time. I'll put in my whip finish for the blue. That will finish the head. This one got a little bit longer than I wanted. And I think part of the problem is that you get to wrapping this in and you end up going further back, trying to cover up that white or trying to make certain it's secure. And it just slowly creeps backwards, trying to push myself to make certain that the head is only up in this area here where the return is on the hook. But it's not bad. I mean, it looks good. I've seen some of these, a lot of hers that she hand tied, or not hand tied, but rather tied herself, have a little bit longer head on them than a lot of modern versions of these. So I'm not certain which is the better way to go, but this one turned out pretty good for the most part. It's not too big, and the bands are fairly even. Certainly are pronounced enough to, they certainly are pronounced enough to distinguish themselves what they are. Head cement spout was a little bit clogged there. So I've got some head cement on there, and that will secure those threads. And I'll come back and put 2 coats of clear lacquer on that, and that will complete the General MacArthur. Well, that completes the patriotic series of the Carrie Stevens flies that I did, the General MacArthur. You can look and search for the other 3. There's the Casablanca I did a long time ago, the Victory and the America. Just some fun flies. You know, it doesn't have to always be about tying productive flies for fishing. Sometimes it's just kind of have some fun with it. There's the General MacArthur. Thanks for watching today. Thank you for joining me at the Vise today. I hope you learned a new pattern, at least a tip or trick here and there. If you'd like to help Dress Irons, you can like, comment, share, subscribe, all those wonderful things for the video. You can also head out to dressedirons.com where you can buy flies, tools, stickers, and merch, or you can join a growing community over on Locals at the Dressed Irons Fly Tying Guild. You can also donate to Dressed Irons if you want through the link at the bottom of the description. I thank everybody for their ongoing support, as it really does help the creation of these videos. But what's important is to remember, only fly tying. If you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong.